So, grant funding example. Because it seems confusing. It can be confusing if you twist your mind around enough. We're going to start with the club contribution of $9,000 right there. Club comes up with $9,000, but only $8,571 ends up in there. Now, when you do the actual application, if you put in $9,000, it'll say $9,500. With the there's a 5% a 5% fee that the Rotary Foundation takes, and it's highlighted here on the bottom. So if your club has $9,000 and that's all you have, only $8,571 will actually end up going towards the grant, because the foundation needs to take that fee to help cover their administrative expenses of wire transfers, foreign exchange fees, and so on and so forth. So they take that $5,000. If you want $9,000 to be in there, you'll have to do that reverse math so that you end up with a net of $9,000. So $8,500 from the club. The district then will match that $8,500. And then the Rotary Foundation, they'll match our DDF dollar for dollar. And your club money, after the 5%, will be matched 50 cents on the dollar. So it's very straightforward. They do all of this in the end in US dollars. So there's always conversion going on if you start out with Canadian dollars. So very simply, your club money at 50 cents, the DDF from the district at $1. And in this example, $8,500 from you, $8,500 from the district, will get you the $30,000 minimum project. So for less than $9,000, you can do a $30,000 project. Now, your government, in their wisdom, they will match a lot of this money if it's a Canadian club as the primary club. You can have other clubs participate, but the Canadian money, the government will match. And it has to be in line with their global mandates for, and I have to read these, gender equity, environmental sustainability, and good governance. Now, we don't get a whole lot into gender equity, nor do we get it as Rotarians, Rotary grants, in governance. But we do get involved in the environmental sustainability. And just about every grant can be somehow engineered that way, but not everything necessarily can. They have some other rules, but it's important to remember that your government will be more than happy to help us out with the project, and we have an example here. Club contribution, $10,000. Our district will match that $10,000. Canada, your Ottawa, will give us another $20,000 US dollars. This is all in US dollars. They will match those US dollars at dollar for dollar to give you those $40,000. In addition, you have the club match from the Rotary Foundation of 50 cents on the dollar, so $5,000 there. They'll match the DDF from the district, dollar for dollar. And the Canadian, the match from the Rotary Foundation, they will match 50 cents on the dollar for the money coming from Ottawa. Amazing. And because this is the Canadian money, the Canada government money is cash, in this case $1,000 5% fee will also be covered by Canada. They will pay the fee. And your club, of course, would have to pay in this case, $500 on the fee. Did everybody get that? What he was asking is there a way to get all of the money over to the Rotary Foundation matches first, and then ask the Canadian government then to double that, and that's not their process. Rick just learned about this. Now that we're soon to be, come July 1st, a zone, we're soon to be a zone that is Canada with little itsy bitsy pieces of the United States, including Michigan, or most of Michigan, Rick went to a training and it covered all provinces, I think, eh? And that's all they talked about was how to get government money. It's your tax dollars at work to help Rotary. So we suddenly learned something we never learned before. The U.S. government, I don't know if they just decided to or how this came about, but it's a new program. USAID is a quasi-governmental entity. United States international development, and what they've put together with our leaders in Evanston is a program similarly structured, but it's a 2-year experimental program and limited to Eastern Europe. So if you want to do a program in Eastern Europe, and maybe you might want to talk to a U.S. club to get involved so that you can capture some of this money. It's an experimental one. There's $1 million that has been set aside to fund this over the 2 years, and we'll know a lot more about it, hopefully by PETS. I can't guarantee that, but as soon as they tell us, we'll get the word out. So if you've got something like that coming up in your head, most of the time we think about global grants in India and Africa and sometimes South America and Central America. So this 5% admin fee, 5% fee to administrative fee that we pay for club cash, and it really is, they do a lot of work. You don't have to mess with this at all. You don't have to worry about all those other fees. They'll take care of it, and they just pre-fund it with this 5%. Simple example that we had before, $9,000 is split, $428 to cover the fees, and the balance would be going to the grant. And then if $10,000, $500 would have to be paid by the club. They'll just subtract it out of that $10,000, and that's all you get. So, can you avoid it? And you can. It's very simple. You can avoid this fee completely, in this case, the $500, by, when you have a global grant, once it's approved, the first thing you have to do, you're going to get an email that says, congratulations, now you have to take care of the banking side. And that's open an account specifically for this grant. You cannot commingle any other money other than the grant money in this separate, segregated account. And so you open that account, it starts out with a zero balance. Any club monies that you want to not have to pay the 5%, deposit it directly into that bank account. And then once you have all that money in, send that into Rotary, the bank statement into Rotary International. They'll look at it, and then they will say, okay, fine, we're not going to charge you the 5%, and they will then transfer the balance of your grant funds into your account. Very, very simple. Now, what quite often happens is if you have other clubs participating or other donors, they may want to donate directly to the Rotary Foundation, either because they just don't trust you or they want to have their Paul Harris points or whatever it happens to be, and that's all good. It's all good. Any questions? Yeah. Yes, I'm sorry. It's where does the bank account have to be, and it could be wherever you need it to be. Very simple. Oops, sorry. So, pop quiz. Get your pencils out. Okay, your club has got $20,000 for a grant, a global grant. How much will the Rotary Foundation match those $20,000? Anyone? Loud. $10,000 is what you're asking. The district is going to provide how much DDF? Anyone? 10,000 against the 20, okay? And then the Rotary Foundation, how much are they going to contribute matching for the district designated funds? 10. So you're saying 10, 10, and 10. Let's see if you are right. Yes. So your $20,000 could be $50,000. And if you've engineered it properly, you'll get matching from the Canadian government, which will make it much, much larger if you need that kind of money. So, important. There's a new fund called the District 6400 Water and Sanitation Fund. This is a special fund from Nick and Jennifer, where they, as well as others and your clubs, donated money towards this endowment fund at the Rotary Foundation. And this is now funds where we can take the income from the invested money for water and sanitation grants. And it's only for our district. Only for our district. So the clubs, most clubs can apply for up to $2,000, except Roseland and LaSalle, because those are the home clubs for Nick and Jen. So we're allowing, at this point, up to $7,500 to go for those clubs' projects. Oh, well, there's everything I just told you. I thought I'd changed it, excuse me. So anyway, so that $7,500 has already been earmarked for the Malawi projects being sponsored by LaSalle, and also Roseland's participating. So this is, if you ever have a project where one element, not necessarily the area of focus that you've identified, but there's a side project, or it could be the main focus, either one, that's a water and sanitation type project, you can get some funding for that if we haven't already used it. And how do you do it? Because you can't just say, well, we want this money and write all that out. You have to put in endowed/directed gift with the number E10953. If you don't remember that, call me, call Rick, we can tell you. And that goes right there on a funding line, and then you would put in the dollar amount. And when the grant is being authorized, Rick will see that. We'll see it both before you even submit it. And we'll make sure that that money is available, or let you know. So there's two special grants. We talked about them before, Global Scholars and Vocational Training Team. And that's where when you start that application, right at the top, what's the name of your project? What kind of project is it? Humanitarian, Vocational Training Team, or Global Grants, or Global Scholars. So you want a Global Scholar. These are our three most recent Global Scholars. Andrea went to Spain, sponsored by 1918. Madison Vorva, sponsored by my club, went to Cambridge. She's doing community economic development. Andrea did peace and conflict resolution. These global scholars, they have to be studying in a country other than their home country, and their degree program has to, in some way, have not necessarily a full focus, but quite often it is a full focus on one of the 6 areas of focus. So they have to be involved in it. And the most recent, Prakash, is doing economic and community development, and he's going to the London School of Economics. So you can see these are not little schools, but they can go anywhere in the world. There's no, and if it's a U.S. student, they can go to University of Windsor. If it's Canadian, they can go to Eastern Michigan, University of Michigan, whatever. But quite often they're, of course, going a little further away. As Rick pointed out, you can have a global scholar. You have to work through Colleen. And if you just go with the $15,000 from the district, that's $30,000 scholarship, not a small piece of change, at no cost to your club. Your club will be considered the sponsor. We have to put together as a club-sponsored person, but the money is coming from the district. If it's larger, we have some where other clubs, other districts even help support one of these students, and we have larger grants. One is over $50,000. It has to be graduate level too, by the way. It could be PhD or master's level. Any questions?
They have to be accepted at the university.
Ultimately, they have to be accepted before you can submit the grant. You can start putting the grant together while you're waiting for the acceptance. And one other key element here is make sure you plan ahead we do require, and this will be on the call for applications that Colleen will have out in the next month's news and notes, 3 months in advance. It just takes a while to get all the pieces together. So Colleen Mitchell is the person to talk to, and she will help you walk through it. We require, if the district is going to put DDF in this, we have to interview that student, and they're all, by the time they get to that far, they're great kids. So you can submit it through Colleen. You can do the application, but Colleen has to be involved. And that applies for U.S. clubs, even though I don't think there's any U.S. clubs here tonight. Vocational training teams. This is an opportunity for humanitarian training and education where Rotarians and non-Rotarians alike can go over to another country and help. Or we can have people come in here to help, to work with us on training us in doing a better job. It has to be again, area focus organized, and it can cover anything. And these are usually teams of anywhere from 2 to 6, would you say, somewhere in that neighborhood?
It's what you can buy for $30,000.
Whatever you can do for $30,000. And as Rick mentioned before, we had one that they didn't spend all their $30,000. They went back the next year to do a follow-up as a medical vocational training team. You see a lot of them with education, a lot of them with medical. Those are probably the two biggest, right, Janet?
Yeah.
Yep. So, but be creative. You can put together a team. The district sponsors one every year for $15,000, total of $30,000. But if your club wants to help sponsor one, we will match with $10,000 of district money. Again, if you want DDF, you got to work through, in this case, Janet, and she will help you go through the whole process and do the application.
Does the grant pay for the Rotarian that goes? Or?
Does the grant pay for the Rotarian? Yes. Unlike the old GSE's grant, the Group Study Exchange. Thank you. I couldn't think of the GSE program. It was a little different. It had to be just the Rotarian leader and then non-Rotarian team members. Now it can be any mix. Yes, Janet?
Yeah, just to say that usually the team leaders are Rotarian, but it's not necessary, and they don't limit the number of Rotarians that can be part of the team.
Correct.
Which in GSE it was one,
yeah,
and the rest were non-Rotarians.
Right, in the GSEs, which actually still exist, and we don't do them. But what Janet was saying is the team members can be any mix of Rotarians and non-Rotarians. They have to be well qualified in their area of expertise that matches up, and Janet goes through that vetting process to make sure that they're there, that they're at that level. I thought the team leader had to be a Rotarian. Janet, who knows way more about this than I, says no. Why it's not a Rotarian. We have to justify. What Janet, for the purposes of the people watching on video, what Janet was saying was it doesn't have to be. We like it. We have to, in the application process, justify why a non-Rotarian is leading. And her example was if you have an ophthalmologist, ophthalmology-related training team, and you don't have a Rotarian ophthalmologist, I'm sure we could find one, but if you don't have one, then you might justify it that way. So everybody on that team really needs to be active in that area that the training team is working on. Yes?
So does this money cover like their travel?
Does the money cover travel? Yes, it covers travel. It can cover all their expenses if you can fit it into that $30,000. Quite often, your hosts in the other country, they're typically Rotarians, will do their very best to help you minimize those expenses, often hosting you in their own homes. It can be a great experience for international travel and humanitarian aid.
It also covers supplies.
Covers supplies. It really, if you can do it in $30,000, it's anything that's related. Books. We had a literacy one not too long ago. Some of that money went for the books and materials that we bought in Ghana. Any other questions? Thank you very much. That's well, there you go. Talk to Janet.